Hello everyone, we are going to continue data processing with Boolean expression. If you remember, for Boolean expression we use AND or operator to evaluate a result of some expressions. The result could be false or true. So what I did here, I defined and I read my data set. Now let me run this. Okay, so now I'm going to say data set dot I'm going to choose one of the columns like this, and then I'm going to choose bracket here, and then again I'm going to say in this column find all the percent of high school graduation that are greater than 0, for example. So what this is going to do, it's going to go through this column and find all the graduate percentage greater than 0. So you see all the columns are greater than 0 already. So let me be more specific and write down greater than 70. What happens? It's just going to select those are greater than 70. Or let's change it to equal 80. And then now you see only this data set. So I'm going to copy this, paste it here, and instead of specifically saying show the first column, I will say in all the data set, find the percent of high school graduation, which is greater than equal to 80, and then bring out all the rows in this data set for me. So it will just keep the rows with percent of high school graduation greater than 80. It's not showing the other row with percent of high school graduation less than 80. We can be more specific. I can say let's choose the one that is 86.9, and instead of greater than sign, what should I have? I should have equal, which is the equality sign. Okay, so now it shows just one row for me, right? I'm going to cut this, write this down, and then keep this as an example for you. Okay, so here is the selection, and now what I'm going to do again, I'm going to, let's choose this. I'm going to find some more specific information from this data set. Here, I will say, find in this data set all the percent of graduate high school greater than 80 and all the teacher qualification column which are equal 1. Let's see what I get, and I forgot and. Let's see what I get here, and then I will explain to you what happens. I will get error. Why? First of all, I should have parentheses around my first expression, and then another parenthesis around the second expression. I could have many other expressions, right? And then AND says if this one is true and this one is true, give me the result. So the result is all the teacher qualification equal to 1 and all the graduation greater than 80. So here we saw all these graduation which are greater than 80, but now our selection is more specific. It's not choosing the teacher qualification 0 anymore. because we said and. This must be true and this must be true. So the result of this must be true, the result of this one must be true. What happens if I choose or? It will say find all of these, show both of them. Doesn't matter. This can be true and this can be true. If either of them is true, give me the result. Okay, this is for you to try. What happens if I choose this one? In parentheses, this one means or. Okay. Now I'm going to talk about copying the data set. Okay, so these are all Boolean expression that you can use. You can have and here, another or after this, all different kind of expression you want to make your selection more specific and select a subset of your data set. Okay, so now I'm going to make a copy of my data set. I'm naming it dataset copy equal to from my data set, make a copy using the method copy in parentheses. Then I will have the exact same copy of my data set. Okay, let me write a command to copy to actually make a copy of the original data set. So why do you do this? Because later when you want to do data manipulation, let's say you want to replace for example, okay, let's do this instead of talking about that. So I have this one. This is my new data set, right? And then I'm going to say ILOC, do you remember this? And then choose all the rows from index 0 to index 4 and replace them by 0. So what happens here, if I print my data set, I will see, oops, why? I will see all the first rows, the first 4 rows are 0. So if you do this, isn't that better to make this change on a copy of your original data set rather than accidentally change your own original data set? So this is the reason we use copy method to copy the data set for manipulation. Okay, so now here we want to talk about, again, we want to talk about NumPy. Why I'm going to talk about this? Because the package NumPy will help me to generate some random numbers using package NumPy to generate random numbers. So this is my data set, right? My aim is to generate a column randomly generated, a column of date, right? And then attach that column to this data set, add it to this data set. Or even I want to do something else. I want to generate some random data set to draw a graph for you. So these are the kind of the basic purpose of using random numbers. There are more into this, like simulation. All of these are, using the random numbers. Okay, so I'm going to start by separating this cell to different parts. So for the first part, I am going to generate integer numbers. And okay, do you remember what this does? This will print in the next line for me. Okay, so for generating random integer using NumPy, what is the first thing I must do? I must import NumPy. We can import it as NP. Most people do that. But let's keep it like that, as I mentioned before. Okay, so in NumPy package, there is a method random. I want to use that method. NumPy dot random dot. In random package, there is a method rand int. I'm going to use this to generate 100 or 1000 or 40 random numbers, right? By default, it generates only one random integer from 0 to 100. 98, right? Now, how I can change the boundary? I can say NumPy now 1 to 100 or 3 to 100. I get 4. I can say from negative 20 to 100 to get maybe a negative numbers, right? So this can be negative number. Lower boundary can be a negative number. Okay, so let me write down. So this one, the first one, is exactly same as this command, and above are exact same. Okay, so this one generated 0, and look, every time they are different. The first one generated 14, the next one generated 0, and then this one 93. Okay, one thing I could do, I could write from NumPy, do you remember this? Import random. So if I do this, what happens? I don't need to write down NumPy anymore. I can just write down random.rand it, right? Then I don't have to use NumPy dot anymore. Okay. The next one is one-dimensional random array. Okay, so I can write down print random dot rand int 100 size. Size is the argument that help us to choose the generate a one dimension array with 4 elements. Look what happens. These are the 4 elements generated from 0 to 100. And then now I can write down 2, 5. If I do this, it will be 2 dimension with 2 rows and 5 columns. This is the one. 2 rows, and in each rows we have 5 elements in each. Okay. So this was all for integer number. Now, what if I want to generate floating number? I will use random dot rand instead of rand int, and then this will generate a floating number for me between 0 and 1. Then I can say print random dot rand, and I can generate 4 of these numbers from 0 to 1. So this will be the one dimensional, right? And then I can write down print random dot rand 2 and 5, which is 2-dimensional floating numbers, 2 rows and 5 elements each. Okay, 2 rows and 5 elements each row. Actually, let me say 2 arrays. This is better, right? Okay. Then the next one, I'm going to use choice. Generating random numbers by choice. How? I'm going to say print random dot choice parenthesis bracket 3, 5, 7, 9. Good, that's good. What happens now? It selects one of the 4 numbers here. So it selects only one random number from our selection. Then I can say, now I want 4 of them. Here we received error. Why? Oh, you know why? Because we have to have an equal sign. Okay, fixed it. No? Why? It says size is an oh. Why? Size is correct. Oh, okay. Look at this. Size goes inside. You know what? Look at this. This parenthesis should come here. Why? If I don't do that, means size is going to be argument of the print function, right? But if I put size inside the choice, size is going to be the argument of random choice. Good. Here. We have 4 elements in the array. The next one, let me just copy copy this one here, and then 2 and 5. Okay, so from our selection it will choose, oh look, did you see we have repetitive numbers also? So we can have repetitive number also. So from our choice we created 2 arrays, each array 5 elements. This one is a 2-dimensional array, and then this one with repetitive, 1 array, 1-dimensional array. Okay, so the next one is the, okay, so now what happens if I want to have a negative numbers? Look at these are all the positive numbers, right? The only choice I had to create a negative number was a negative number for integers, right? I could choose -20, 200 for example, or 1000, and it will give me negative integer. So what about the integer? What about the negative floating number? I will write down print random dot uniform. Uniform is actually a distribution, and we explain that in statistic. This is the minimum number to the maximum number, and it gives us all the floating number between -1 to 1. We could say between -100 to 100. Oh no, -1 to 1, because the floating numbers are just between -1 to 0, 0 to 1, right? Only one floating number. Okay, the next one, I'm going to copy this and say, oh no, sorry, I'm going to show you another argument, another method, random dot randn, and let's create 10 of them. 1-dimensional array with 10 floating numbers that can be negative. That can be negative. This is 1-dimensional, right? And then the method is rand10, right? And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to 10, 3. Okay, so it will create 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 rows, and then 3 columns. So 30 random numbers. This is 2-dimensional array with 10 multiply 3 floating numbers that can be negative. Look, they can be negative number. Okay, let's go through this. So rand int, random integers from random method from numpy. And again, we explain this. 1-dimensional, 2-dimensional using size argument. And then we are generating floating number with rand without int. And then we are going to choose 1-dimensional or 2-dimensional. We can use choice from random, and then we can give an array of whatever elements, and it will choose repetitive number from it. And then to generate random negative numbers, which are floating numbers, we can use 2 different methods, uniform and random. Uniform just gives us 1, rand n gives us n numbers. which is exact same as this float. Look, float also use RAND, but this one uses RANDN. Okay. So this was generating random numbers. So with this, I'm going to generate a randomly created data set. Format is data frame. So what we do, we say import pandas, import numpy, right? And then we say pandas dot data frame. This is the method Panda has using method to create a data frame. Now I'm going to generate random numbers using rand n. So what rand n does, this is your participation point for this lecture. What is the difference between RAND, rand n, and RAND alone? So what's the difference between rand and rand n? Explain that to me. Okay, 6 and 4. This is the first argument. And then I'm going to define the index for this data set using list range. You remember range? Range 0 to 12, 12 excluded. The distance between each number is 2. And then comma, the next one, I'm going to say now the name of column, list range 0 to 8. 8 is excluded. Difference is 2. And I'm going to close the parenthesis. So I have one argument generating numbers, another argument defining the index name, then the third argument defining the column's name, and I'm going to name this random data frame. I'm going to print the random data frame. Okay, so now you see columns have name. Names are 0 to 8. Distance is 2. 8 is excluded. Index are 0 to 12. Distance is 2. 12 is excluded. I created two-dimensional array, 6 arrays. Each array has 4 elements. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I could do something else. I could come here, instead of list, write down bracket, column 1, column 2. How many? 1, 2, 3, 4. Column 4, column 5. Naming it, right? I could do the same thing for this one and write down row 1, row 2, up to row 6, right? row 1, row 2, row 3, 4, 5, 6, bracket, close it, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Look, we have names for column, we have names for row. Now, the second participation point here for this video. What happens if I change the random numbers to 7 and 5? And how can I fix this? Because I will receive error, right? If I do this for 7 and 5, fix this for me and send me the correction if I have 7 and 5 in this parenthesis. Okay, so I will see you in the next video. Take care of yourself and please let me know if you have any question.